Terry Connell serves as a life coach, a business coach, and most importantly, a teen coach who helps teens find alternative pathways to their work, their life, and their career goals. She has years of experience working with teens, offering homeschool classes, summer camps, leading dozens of field trips, and has hosted 22 foreign exchange students. She currently serves as the founder and director of Astrolabe Academy, a national virtual high school with student-directed programs. She is also the instigator of this summit and the brainchild born out of a deep desire. The summit was her brainchild, born out of a deep desire to help parents and teens connect at a better level and to see teens who may be at risk of dropping out or who just are plain bored with school and not only want to succeed, but want to excel. So this summit is for wherever your child is. Terry, is that something Gina can do?
What? Share to Facebook? I'm totally crippled, so I cannot do that.
I think we're just gonna have to post this in the Facebook when we're done.
Yeah.
And
so on the break, we can try that. Gina, if you could make me co-host again, then I can share my screen and we can get started.
Okay, great.
Thank you for that introduction, Robin. Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you again. Like Robin said, we really want you to get as much out of the summit as possible. So feel free to ask chat questions in the chat anytime they come, pop into your head. And what we cannot get answered on the summit, we will definitely answer in the Facebook group. So again, if you're not in the Facebook group, make sure you join. I did notice a minute ago when I was dealing with the Facebook thing that there are a number of people waiting to get in. So we will be letting everybody in we'll let some more people in on the break and then afterwards. I'll take a look at some of the reasons why you're here. A lot of you guys are looking for options for completing high school, which is what we're hoping to help you with, and options for, for your teen for moving into their future. So I am, without further ado, now that I am co-host, right? I can share my presentation, and for some reason, my dog has decided he needs to be part of the meeting and he's not going to stop talking until I let him in. So there's that. Gotta love it. Let me get my screen shared. And I want to share this. All right. So can you guys see my presentation? Are we at Help Your Frustrated Teen Get More Out of Their Education?
Yes, thank
you. Yay. Okay. So a lot of the folks that are here are coming from the homeschool community, and a lot of folks are coming from the frustrations of traditional school. And Gina and Robin and I are in a number of parenting teen support groups. And, pretty much as soon as the pumpkin decorations show up on the shelves, we see folks in there start asking for help with their kids in high school. And school barely gets started and people are already having a lot of issues. And so the reason that we pulled the summit together was because, I'm seeing it, Gina's seeing it, Robin's seeing it. And I'm like, hey guys, we're all about the alternatives. Why don't we put together something and try to help folks understand that there are alternatives? And it's heartbreaking to me to see in these posts how there's so many frustrated parents, and a lot of us were raised up with this old school mentality, the mentality that, if you stay in school and you graduate and you go to college, you'll get a job. There was a time when all jobs required a 4-year degree, and it didn't matter what the degree was in. And so we've been raised in that mentality, and that mentality isn't real anymore. And we all struggle with it, but our teens are frustrated. They come home. We'll talk about this some more, but what parents are recommending in these groups is like more punishment, more restrictions, more grounding, taking things away. And in my own personal experience, and in what I'm seeing in friends and family and other things around me, that's not always helpful. As a matter of fact, it usually isn't. And it usually escalates the situation. So we want to consider that maybe the teen isn't the problem. They're not lazy, they're not dumb, and they're certainly not doing this to punish us. A lot of us take, what teens are going through overall personal. And I learned almost the hard way that when I stopped taking things personally and took a step back and saw what was really going on, it made a massive difference. And you'll hear from my daughter about that later in the summit. So, misery loves company, right? So they come home and it's safe at home. They should be able to show their frustrations, and a lot of times they do, and then we take it personal, or we have that old school mentality and we're telling them, hey, no, buck up and stick it out. But what we should be doing is turning our attention to school, because the school is a huge problem. For about 20% of the kids, 25%, the auditory learners and the really social kids, it is amazing. It's an amazing experience. They actually learn there and they thrive in this system. But that leaves, 80%, 75, 80% of the kids that are just kind of sucking it up and sticking it out, or dropping out, or, falling apart, having issues, and all that kind of stuff. So the problem is in the system. It is so fraught with problems, and it is the subject of serious debates. I mean, it's on the news constantly. They're talking about in Congress constantly. They're talking about reform, and what they end up doing is making it worse. But I think, I really like this gentleman named Sir Ken Robinson. I don't know if anybody have heard of him. He actually just passed away, but he championed the school reform thing. And like what he said is, we don't need a reform, we need a revolution. And so at its core, this system is conceived in the economics of the Industrial Revolution, and in the ideas of intelligence that came from Enlightenment. I mean, it's a several 100-year-old system. And it's a system of conformity. So kids are pushed through, they're pushed through in batches by age. They're taught the same thing at the same time with more and more standardized tests, which is the government's way of trying to fix the problem. So it's become a production line system. There's bells, there's separated subjects, there's separated rooms. And get this, it was built on the idea originally of the social class, where working kids were thought to be dumb. The working class and the poor people were thought that they would never do college. We needed to push them towards trades. And we had a lot of trades and vocational programs in the schools for that reason. And then at some point we were like, oh no, this is wrong. Those kids aren't dumb. They're just poor, right? They don't have access to the same stuff. And so they're not able to succeed. So they pulled the trades out of the schools and they pushed everybody to college. And this one, this like either or, one size fits everybody thing is really killing your child. If you have more than one kid, I bet you do. How many people in here have more than one child? How many people have more than one child and they're all exactly identical? Like they're the same learning styles. They like the same things, right? That's not going to happen. I have two, and they're night and day. One started reading at 1, one started reading at 12. Huge differences in our children, and they're pushing them through the school system by age batches is not the way to do it. They're not going to fit into those tiny little molds. So then there's also the problem that the schools and what they're teaching is really ineffective in today's global economy and global market. And it's useless in preparing youth for life, for work, for taxes. So if you've read the latest feedback from colleges, and we'll hear from some colleges on this summit, public school has actually become more ineffective at preparing teens for college, which is their, they have one job. That's their job. And they're not even doing that well. So your child, like many others, is pretty much done with it. They don't believe that old thing. If you stick to high school and you graduate and you get a college degree, you're going to have a job, because they know from hearing from people that that's not the case anymore. So they're done. They're bored. They're frustrated. They have fears and anxieties, and their loathing at this point is to a boiling point. And we need to hear them. We need to understand that this is real. The school system itself is at a tipping point, and dealing with COVID has pushed it over the edge. So not only are parents finally looking for alternatives, teachers are bailing out in droves. We have just this last month in the school district near where I am in Alabama, in the city there, 67 teachers quit in 1 month. 67 teachers quit. And there's a huge hole, and the system is just like crumbling. And so your teen is incredibly miserable. They're bored, they're frustrated, they're talked down to, they're treated with mistrust, and they're wondering what the point is. And really there isn't. If they watch the news, they know that there's no point, right? Because they can hear it, they hear what's going on. And yet here they are, we're forcing them to get up early every day, way earlier than they want to, right? They're teens. And then to go to school and get tortured all day, and then to come home and get more misery because we're frustrated and we don't know how to help them, and we don't know what to do about it. We're not understanding them. We don't have empathy. Some of us do. A lot of people that are on this summit, I'm believing, are probably more along the parents that are not recommending more remediation, but trying desperately to figure out what to do. So before we freak out that our kid is failing or skipping or not applying themselves, we need to try another approach. We need to figure out what they need, what they want, and if they didn't have to go to school, what would they rather be doing? And a lot of people are like, well, my kid would just play video games all day. Well, that may be the case. Guaranteed, after all the stresses of school, maybe a month or two of playing nothing but video games might help unwind them and get their brains thinking. But the stress isn't necessary, and the students do a lot better when you let them go, when you get them outside of those walls or outside of that tight academic system. So I am here to encourage folks. I love self-directed learning. I think it's the best way for anybody to learn. Our forefathers learned on their own with self-directed with learning. They filled their libraries with books, and they studied what they wanted to study, and they became great men. So I just want you to consider that. And overall, as a country, we really do need to wake up. And even while we're discussing this, we've already talked about the school system crumbling because of COVID. Students are falling through the cracks in a big way. I mean, they were falling through the cracks before, but now they're really falling through the cracks. I just moved from Virginia. I've lived there since the 80s. And there was an article in the paper about a school district near me on the Eastern Shore. And they were one of the first ones to admit, I bet this is going on everywhere, that 25% of their students never checked in for their virtual classes and virtual learning when the COVID closures happened. And they still haven't found them. 25% of their students have disappeared. That means these teenagers dropped out, they quit. And what are they doing now? I know for a fact that the Eastern Shore of Virginia has a massive teen homeless population. And it's sad to say that some of those teens are probably in that situation. But they really are disappearing, and we can help them. We can all help them, and we can help keep your child from falling through those cracks too. So I'm probably preaching to the choir, because a lot of you guys are probably already on board with this. You already get it. The question that I want to put to you then is, what are we going to do about it? I don't really think that individually we can or really necessarily want to be working on school revolution. I personally am, and I'm going to do that. But what we can do is work with our teens and help them navigate this mess and come out of it a better person. So that's the reason why I had the brainchild for the summit. And I'm so glad these wonderful ladies have helped me with it, because it's been a lot of work. So we invited folks to talk to you guys, not just us. We have a lot to say, but we really want you to benefit from the colleges and the other folks that are on here. Our goal is to showcase and explore some of those possibilities and get you thinking outside the box. You're going to hear from experts, homeschool consultant. Actually, Robin is going to be talking. We'll introduce her later, about all your varying homeschool options. There's a whole ton of them that range from radical unschooling all the way up to traditional academic studies. I'm here. I'm actually the founder director of an alternative private school that has a graduate early program, and we do ongoing enrollment as a self-directed learner, and we will talk about that more. And there's other options out there like that as well. We'll hear from college staff that understand that students have awesome high school transcripts with GPAs and all the right AP classes aren't necessarily the best students. And a lot of them have learned that the kids that take these alternative learning paths have more gumption and more drive and make really good students. So they're going to talk about admissions and financial aid and scholarships and dual enrollment and CLEP and all that kind of stuff, prior learning assessments, all that. And since technology is a requirement and a concern, you're also going to hear from Gina, who's a technology expert, and she's going to help you manage screen time in positive ways, and she can help you set up your technology for your family in ways that keeps them safe. We know the kids need the technology. They need to have access to Google. There's a lot of research that they can do to help with their self-directed learning path or their homeschooling or whatever education path that they come up with. And then the relationship you have with your teen is really critical in supporting them. And this one is an emotional tugboat for me, because my kid, when she turned 13 or was a little bit younger, things were so bad between us that I almost shipped her off to one of those special schools. She was a mess. And you know what? It was me. I learned so much about my parenting style and what I was doing to create that monster. It was shocking. And so we have a relationship coach on here, Allie Payne, who's amazing. And she's going to help us develop strategies for reconnecting with that teen. And you're also going to hear from some young adults who forged their own education paths, and they're going to share their stories to help inspire you with the possibilities and let you know that, hey, they found high school pretty much unnecessary and they are doing really well. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories out there from kids who have survived without high school and have done really, really well. So I want to urge you to keep an open mind over the next couple of days. I totally forgot about my presentation. So I'm just been talking. So I want to urge you to keep an open mind as we present options. And the options that we present are going to include various educational paths and stuff that you can do through their normal high school years. And we're going to present some options that question the validity and the necessity of high school at all. And we want you to consider that it isn't necessary to think of any of these options as an all or nothing approach. So it's more a la carte menu that you can mix and you can match and find the right solution for your teen and your family. So I want to offer you some steps that I think are important for moving forward from this summit, and action steps to help you get your teen navigating forward to their future. So first of all, attend the summit, which you're here, and that's amazing. So take notes, ask lots of questions. There's a lot of people on here who have a lot of experience. Do some research yourself and with your teen. Different states have different homeschool laws. Robin mentioned that already. And there's also different grants and scholarship programs available for the different states and different areas. Sometimes businesses pitch in. Take action. Or actually, you know what, reconnect with your teen, sit down with them and listen to them, let them talk, hold your judgments, hold your explanations, hold your responses, let them talk, just reconnect. And then work with them to discuss all of these options, set some goals, and then make an action plan. And then the fourth thing would be to take that action plan and take action. So whatever that looks like for you, making phone calls, signing up for college. And this is stuff your teen should be doing with you supporting them. Don't do this for your teen. They can enroll in a trade school. They can contact a mentor. They can start an apprenticeship. They can hire a coach. There's a lot of things that they can do on their own to start their ball rolling for themselves. So like I mentioned before, I'm a really big fan of Sir Ken Robinson, who championed that we don't just need school reform, we just really need to obliterate it and start over. But in one of his TED Talks, he made an analogy between our education summit and restaurants that really resonated with me, because I am not just an educator, I am a sustainable farmer. And I am a longtime board member of a sustainable farming organization in Virginia, and a member of a real food organization. And as the real food organization connects farmers to the food service industry. So I've really become painfully aware of, in the food business, just like in the school business, how the extreme sides of the restaurant business. On one hand, you have fast food restaurants, and they're tiny little industrialized factories for food production. And on the other hand, you have high-end restaurants with menus that are customized based on what the farmers can deliver fresh on any given day, which is really awesome. So as Sir Ken suggests, we have developed a fast food model for our education. And sadly, just like the fast food robs our health because it's nutritionally vacant, our education system robs children of their spirit and their creativity and their energy. So what we need is a system that allows for the customization of our child, but you're not going to find that in the traditional school format. So we have to take it into our own hands. And this is where it's up to you guys. A lot of you guys have already done that because you're homeschooling, but some of you are trying to figure out what to do. So over the next 3 days, we're going to offer some ideas and some resources to enable you and your teen to rethink these years as they move forward towards adulting. And we hope that you take this information and that you work with them to tailor and develop a path forward based on their dreams and their interests and their goals. There's a lot of research, there's a lot to be said, and a whole lot of research showing that they'll learn so much more when they're allowed to follow their interests, and when they're allowed to learn things in context as a whole, not math over here and science over here and English over there. It's all one piece. Nowhere else in their life other than college, which still kind of ties things together, are they going to have things chopped up like they do in school and out of context, which is another thing that doesn't make sense for them. So I wanted to share, I'm going to stop the share. I wanted to share this little tidbit of Ken's TED Talk. If it'll come through. If not, I'll post it in the Facebook group, because this is really kind of key to what I'm talking about. So y'all let me know if you can hear this. Okay, I'm gonna
cloths of night and light and the half light. I would spread the cloths under your feet.
Wait. I think I started it too soon. Sorry.
He wrote this to his love, Maud Gone, and he was bewailing the fact that he couldn't really give her what he thought she wanted from him. And he says, I've got something else, but it may not be for you. He says this: had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with gold and silver light, of blue, and the dim and the dark cloths, of night and light and the half-light. I would spread the cloths under your feet. I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. And every day, everywhere, our children spread their dreams beneath our feet. And we should tread softly.
So I hope you guys could hear that, because it's a really, really neat message about allowing children. Did the screen sharing stop? Are we back on? Okay. So anyway, that's it. That wraps me up. I don't know if you guys have questions, if we want to chat a little bit about some of the things I said. I'm here. I think we have a couple minutes. I don't know where we stand on time. Hopefully Robin does.
I do. We actually have quite a bit of time still. And I just have a couple of questions. And if anybody has any other questions, put them in the chat. Anne Marie said you must have a camera in her house because you are describing her teen, I guess.
Oh,
Life in her house.
yeah.
Can completely relate.
Yeah, it's funny because kids are also very different, but that's not right. And I've hosted 22 teens from all over the world. And the first lesson I learned is teens is an international thing. Like it's just a thing. So yeah.
So Terry, you talked a lot about kids who are struggling in school. What about if your kids are doing great? Will these options work for kids that are academically advanced and not struggling in school necessarily, but
so I had a child who was very advanced and she was miserable in school because she was bored and because the teachers wouldn't listen to her. And they don't listen to the students individually. There are some, now don't get me wrong, so it's not the whole system. There are amazing teachers out there and they are trying their best in a system that is terrible. But for the most part, a lot of the teachers aren't really engaging the students. They really don't want students who question and who ask. That's been our experience with the teachers in the schools. And the ones that do, you just love them to death. But students that thrive in that environment, it's not necessarily because they're academically advanced. It's a audio learning. It's all auditory, no matter what they say about differentiated learning, having a kid sit on a ball and wiggle his butt while he's doing a worksheet is not differentiated learning. That's not what kinesthetic and visual and all that is. So the kids that do well in that environment may be academically advanced and they may just be really good at book work. They may be really good at memorizing and regurgitating the information back. So there's a number of reasons why kids thrive in that environment. But if they're thriving in that environment and they don't seem and they're happy there, you really want your kid to be happy. So I wouldn't recommend just pulling your kid out because you hate school. I would recommend making sure they're happy and making sure they're actually learning. I have an associate. I took a class from this woman in 1988 and she's still my best friend. She was an amazing teacher, amazing. And she's like my mom. And she told me she's just recently retired. And in the last 5 or 6 years of teaching, she said it had been growing, but the last 5 or 6 years of teaching, 75% of the students who came to her were what she calls functionally illiterate. So she's teaching at the college level, and these kids, while they can read and write and they can regurgitate and they can answer questions on a multiple choice test, if they actually have to think, they fail. They can't read and understand what they're reading well enough to actually do an open question or other types of questions. So she calls that functional illiterate. And just because a kid is thriving in school doesn't mean when they get to college or out in real life, they can actually think and really understand what's going on. So I would start with a test, an assessment.
Yeah,
Make sure they're getting something.
that's very good information, but I don't think you understood my question.
Okay.
If kids, even if they're homeschool kids, they're not in school and they're excelling, because you're talking about kids that are dropping out and
Right.
kids that are struggling, but there are kids that are excelling in their homeschool program or in their school program or wherever. And my question is the information presented in this summit going to be relevant to parents who have kids that are doing really well already?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. So if they're doing well, this isn't just about academic achievement. This is about being prepared for life. And this is about following your interests. So when you're doing when you're into your career and you're into your job, you're doing something you like. A lot of kids, they're academically advanced. They go to college. They really don't know what they want to do for college, but they're sent to college. College is paid for, or they get loans or whatever. And then they graduate. And then they don't get a job doing what they got a degree for, because that's not really what they wanted to do. They really didn't know what they wanted to do. I think a lot of things that come out of this summit are going to be helpful for everybody, even those that are happy where they are. I think there's going to be good information here.
And so if somebody has a child that really wants to stay in the public school system, is anything they learn in this summit going to be relevant to them?
Absolutely. There's all kinds of information about colleges and CLEPing. All that stuff is still relevant. And finding mentors and following passions. They can still do that when in school. As a matter of fact, there's programs that allow for them to do dual enrollment and do trade school stuff and do trades and follow mentors and shadow. So all of that stuff is very relevant.
Okay, and could you go ahead and tell us why it's important to have the teens do some of this research and not do it all for them?
Yes. So one of the things we want to do, again, I really love self-directed learning, but what that means at its core is your child, loves to learn, is a lifelong learner. And a lot of them have that beat out, but you can waken that back up. And that they're able to function for themselves, to research for themselves, to ask questions for themselves, to order at the restaurant for themselves. They need to be able to do things on their own. They're going to be living on their own soon. They need to start working on this adulting thing. And the best way to do that is to jump in and start doing it. So if we're doing everything for them, we're picking out their clothes, we're making their bed, we're doing their research, we're telling them what to do, we're not helping them become lifelong learners and succeed in life.
Okay, that's all. Oh, can you get a diploma with any of these alternatives?
Sure. So homeschooling, you can have homeschooling families write their own diplomas and develop their own transcripts. And a lot of the alternative programs, like our program, we do a high school diploma as well.
And so it doesn't really matter what a student's grades are going into an alternative learning track.
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, it's completely irrelevant.